Bonjour tout le monde. Je vais pratiquer mon français avec toi aujourd'hui. No. That's a joke. But I will try to speak slowly to make this easier for everyone. I'll give everyone a bit of my background. So I've been working with Defence Construction Canada for 17 years now, focused on project management. My background or education is in engineering. Started my career with them and still with them. A great organization, frankly. In the beginning, I started on a design bid build project. Classic project, classic contract type, typical arguments, disagreements, change orders, slow schedule, over cost, over budget. Moved my way onto a modified design build, or design build as you probably call it. DCC has their own lingo and supplemental conditions to the contracts to modify it to our kind of defense procedures. Then moved on to a private-public partnership, or a P3. Again, same conflict, lots of risk transfer over to the design team and the contractor, way over budget. We got in on time, but to James's point earlier, we changed the scope. We removed something from the scope to actually make it on time and open up. Financial complications around that. Did that again, another P3. Once again, on time, but we adjusted the scope. Then in 2018, I was asked to do an IPD project. I thought, this is a great opportunity, something totally new. I had no idea what I was going to be doing, but the organization put me through some lean training, as my colleagues have spoke to today quite a bit, and really gave me the backbone or the mentality that I needed to go into this IPD project with, creating that team, collaboration. From there, we had our first federal government IPD contract. Defense, and actually at this point, still the only federal IPD project. I shouldn't say that. We have now awarded our second one, so we are working our way through the IPD journey. It's not easy for the public sector to take on this idea, right? Where we're really focused on the merit of the team and not just that lowest bid that comes in. I'll be going through quite a bit of the experiences I've had and how I felt as I went through this IPD process. Truly a great experience for me and really a success for us. The fact that we wanted to go and do another one afterwards, and we're already focused on our third and fourth. So here's the project. Defense, as you can imagine, has very strict requirements and really a no-fail mission. If they have something they need to do, we need to get it done. How quickly can we get it done? And can we get it done for the right budget? This project consisted of the demolition of all of these red buildings, the renovation of those two blue buildings, and then the construction of the yellow. That was a new build. Essentially what this was a tank hangar. We put in 30 tanks and about 400 personnel throughout it. We worked with the users throughout this whole experience, through the validation, through design, bringing them into the room to understand their needs. I know James spoke about quite a bit of like speaking to the user and understanding what they need in the room. That's really one of the big benefits of IPD. You bring the user in. There's not just one person making the decisions. You bring in the team who's actually going to use it and be on the floor and living it day to day to make those decisions. So, why did we use IPD? Well, I think I've touched on a few of those things as I've started, but we were looking to deliver faster, and maybe not faster, but on time. That's the faster. We're always late. We're always over budget. So we needed to find a way, or at least attempt a way, as James put it, it can't get any worse. So we went with IPD. Try it out. We certainly got an improved response for our actual CF is the Canadian Forces. Their requirements, they felt more entrenched in the whole process. It wasn't just one project director from the Department of National Defense that was taking those requirements and giving them to me to implement. It was actually the user. The reduction of projects in queue. So this is a bit key for public sector. We have a budget annually, and we want to spend that budget every year. Otherwise, it goes back to, well, in Canada, what is Treasury Board? That money goes back and is never seen again, or until the next budget is released. So we were looking for consistency in the costs. We wanted to reduce the increases that we see on all of our projects, and we wanted to be predictable. Really control those costs. When you get that information from your contractors, the major trades, you start getting a more exact number, something that has more confidence because they're the ones actually building it on site. They put that concrete in the ground, they pour it, they move the forms, they can commit to something. So getting that commitment really improves our predictability and control. And ultimately, looking for these accelerated timelines. Notice I've mentioned time twice. We are constantly behind. We put out roughly 1.5 and increasing $billion worth of work annually. And knowing that we're going to spend that is critical to us. So I mentioned my first project was a design bid build. My last project was IPD. Here's some comparisons to try and help, or at least from my opinion, how this is better or the differences between them. Design bid build. We go out and get an architect, design team, they come back with our solution. We go to the contractor, they bid it. Hopefully that cost sits, rarely does. IPD, we bring them in early. How are they going to build it? Understanding that what the construction is going to really impact the design. We had a couple of scenarios where we actually adjusted the design to suit what was available to us and what would actually come quicker. Risk. We all want to transfer risk. No one wants to hold it. But by sharing the risk, you actually get better outcomes. You have the waiver of liability, as we've been calling it today, right? Where we have agreed as a team that we're not going to sue each other if things go wrong. We're going to work together to get the job done, do it faster. Again, focused on that time. The IPD contract incentivizes people to come to these solutions. The IPD contract forces people to get into the room and make the decision instead of pointing fingers. If you don't make the decision, everybody loses. More money spent, less savings for the public sector or the owner. It's a great way to work, though you are taking on more risk as the owner because you're now included in that group. Change orders, we've all lived the change order game. Who doesn't like putting in a massive change order to an owner and just like making them pay for it because they missed something in the design? IPD, you have to work within that budget, unless there's a true owner change. That can occur, and we manage that within the contract. But when you validate that project, that first phase of the IPD contract, we're starting to put that scope together and ensure that we have the requirements met and that we can move forward within that bubble. Schedule, as I mentioned, I think I'm probably going to be a broken record around schedule the whole time here. Lots of slippage, coordination issues, right? You've got this contractor who's taking a design that they had nothing to do with and looking at the coordination, and certainly there's going to be issues with it. Mechanical and electrical will all fight over who gets the space in the ceiling. In IPD, we're incentivizing people to coordinate, get that coordination done. We used BIM on our project, a building information model, to ensure that we didn't have any conflicts within the systems in our building, so that when we got to the actual construction of it, things moved, they flowed a little faster. James, you noted the book, How Big Things Get Done, and the author uses think slow, act fast. And it's a really good mindset to shift for an owner, because owners want to get in the ground and see something come up. But adjusting to the thinking slow mentality can really see value added to a project in the end, and ultimately speed. Cost. DBB, constant change orders. People are legitimately looking for change orders. They want the project to be an increase in cost. That's where lots of money is made, and owners spend lots. So pushing that risk is shared, and understanding that if we actually pay more for something, the other members on our team are going to lose, really helps us understand where we can save and how we can get that project first mentality that's been said quite a few times. Quality. A contractor on a design bid build is going to give you the absolute bottom of what is said on that contract. If it says, give me the cheapest window, or that they can get away with the cheapest window, they will. In IPD, we're trying to focus on the innovation and moving these things through quickly and at the cost that we said. So there's an added opportunity to bring value and quality to things. You can focus on the things that matter. And it's not a change order to necessarily do it. It's the team working through the process to get yourself to that quality that you're looking for. So the big shift, team culture, project first mentality. It's it truly is a big part of this, and it takes leadership to do it. This doesn't come to us quickly. We started our IPD in 2018, but the process started in 2013 when we started looking at what IPD could do. There were municipal projects, there were provincial projects within Canada that were showing improvements, and we wanted to be a part of it. From Defence Construction Canada's perspective, we try to be innovative and try to be moving with industry, and we saw that this move was starting to reap rewards with its owners. So we sold it. We went in hard, and we had the leadership above us to make sure that that happened, or above me, I should say. And then I wanted to present that down to the IPD team that joined us, that we wanted to do things different, and we wanted to do it together. So to do that, co-location. Get yourself into a big room. Have everyone working together in one spot. You're not focused on your own organization. You're focused on the project and that IPD team that's going to deliver it. You'll see here, we've got our big schedule. This went out about 6 weeks. James, I was impressed you had sticky notes on yours. We had to go to magnets because they just kept falling. So you got to be careful when you're doing these pull planning schedules. Those magnets will fall. You'll come into the room and they may not be there, and you kind of have to guess. But this is the team being together, talking about each of these stickies being a commitment that they've made. Did you make it? Why didn't you make it? It's important to make the team commit. Those commitments will lead to better outcomes and ultimately a faster schedule and spending the money. And someone's point earlier, and paying them on time as quickly as possible, right? To build some team spirit, we have a bit of a unique opportunity within defense. We've got boats, we've got guns, we've got planes, we've got tanks. We had an opportunity to actually spend a day with the users, and they ran us through a training cycle, essentially, which is probably not a common day for them, but we got to experience everything. We shot guns, we stormed a village, we took a Zodiac boat ride across a river and stormed a beach, and then we came home on a helicopter. I mean, not everyone's going to get that opportunity, but it was certainly something that really helped bring that team together and focus on the project, right? We had fun. We built that social capital that James was talking about, right? Like, we now know each other. We remember when you tripped running up the sand? That was hilarious. You use those sort of things when things get tough, because ultimately, things are gonna be hard. It's not easy to build stuff, but it's hard to make friendships, and it's hard to have those conversations. So if you can build that friendship through exercise collaborative spirit, as we did here, that's helpful. I'm not saying you can do this, but what you can do is have a gambling night. You can play poker one night, or maybe you go out for lunch with folks, or maybe you bring lunch in, or you bring hats that help people think like, yeah, I'm a part of the team. This is the RCD project, and I'm working on it, and I want to do well. So don't forget, like, even from the public sector, we figured out a method of supporting this project. Typically, we're so afraid to provide things to people. But when you build it into the project, like we built this into the project cost, it became an event. It became something fun. And that makes a project work faster. So this is our team health survey graph. Every 2 weeks, we asked every member on the team to rate 1 through 5 each of these categories. I will admit, 11 categories is too many. I would try to do 5 or less. But it does give you an idea of how we're doing within the team, within the big room, within the construction site, through the design phase. What you're seeing here, the purple line is our validation phase. How did people think we were doing? Blue line, design procurement, and then the green line is construction. Scores are pretty good. I think people do get a bit complacent. You could probably score this 1 to 3, have 5 categories, and really get an understanding of what's going on in your big room. But what I wanted to show here is the red line. Things aren't always good. You see the other 3, and we're kind of consistently between that 4 and 4.5 mark, which really means people are putting 4s and 5s every week on how this project's going. But sometimes things don't go great. Collaboration, learning and coaching, really big drops. When you go from what's essentially over a 5 to below a 3.5, that's a big change. And we utilize this information. We didn't just take it for the sake of me putting up this fancy spider graph in front of you. We used it so that we could actually improve the team culture and how we were going to present ourselves to the team every week. In this particular instance, we were 2 months away from substantial completion of that new building. And our drywallers, finishers, were very pressured to get things done. Lots of tension in the big room, and it showed in our weekly health, or bi-weekly health team survey. We took this information and set up the next day a big room activity for all of the people involved in this particular trade and who was implicated in not being able to move forward with them not finishing. We did a full pull planning session to ensure that we started to get the commitment from that team again. On this day, the drywallers put their hands up, said, "We can't do it," and walked out. Everything was great, but eventually you do have hard times on these IPD contracts, but it's how you manage that hard time is how you can move it forward and succeed. This is just another image of us in the big room trying to change those behaviors, like I mentioned, with the project first mentality and focusing on the project and not the individual or the organization. But here's what I'm coming to here on the actual performance of our project. We are tracking those commitments that you saw on those boards, right? Each one of these stickies or magnets is a commitment from one of these individuals, or the last planner. When you guys go get your lean training, you'll start understanding who the last planner is. Those commitments, when they're made or not made, we track them. If it's made, great, you did it. If it's not made, we don't get it. So what we're showing here is the percent plan complete for each of our weeks. You'll see in design, we're starting here at the above 60 and varying throughout our weeks. The gray line below is the industry average. This was probably based in 2013 though, so it may have changed, and Daniel, you probably have some better information now, but I'm sure it hasn't changed much from the 58% that we were tracking at the time. Our goal for the team was 80%. We didn't want to be 100% because in that situation, it's considered sandbagging, or people are just under-committing to what they can actually do. If I tell you that you need to be 100% perfect every week, what are you going to do up on that board? You're going to say, yeah, I'm going to write one email, and that's fine. Or I'm going to put one screw in this drywall, or I'm going to do this. We wanted to let people know that it was safe to make a commitment and miss it. So 80% was the goal. The blue line turned out to be our average. I'm very thrilled with the outcome of this project. The fact that we only hit our goal, what's that? Let's say 6, 8 times throughout the whole project, was good. We were so far above the industry average. That blue line is at the 70% mark, pretty much. We're crushing it. And really, what you want to see is this variation in your team. Okay, we've hit our goal. Let's push ourselves a little harder. Could we do more? pull that schedule forward? Can we do better? Can we spend more money and I'll pay you? And can we put that schedule up a little faster? So seeing this variation, this is when I was most proud of our project team. Just doing the project as good as they possibly can. And it was safe for them to not make their commitments. We were happy with it, move them forward. Now, the drop. Really not a great place to be when you are essentially 2 months away from the project completion. That drop is this day. That's the red line. That lines up with our drop. But what we did, like I mentioned, is this special day pull plan, big room activity to get all of the appropriate trades in the room together and solve the problem that was hurting our team health and hurting our actual efficiency on the project. And then you see, we actually move right back up. So this is a big success, I thought, from a team perspective, moving this forward. As an owner, super excited to see a team that was really seeing a downward trajectory come right back up and save. So this is certainly a really good tool for owners and really the team in general to see how your team's functioning and where we can improve team health and your team performance. We were fortunate enough to go into the construction phase, or before we went into the construction phase, to have COVID hit us in March of 2020. We were about to do our final target cost, which is the end of the design phase essentially, and move into construction, and COVID hit us. That was a big hit. There was a question earlier around, how did COVID impact, or how do you measure the risk through COVID, and how that's such an unknown. We did admittedly struggle with it. The team had to come up with a method of sharing that risk and putting a dollar value associated with that risk. And with all of the unknowns, it created a lot of tension within our project. So the project management team, James had mentioned it earlier, they're the ones really making the decision on the project, how to advance it, decisions on budget, what those other teams are doing to get you to completion. But sometimes that team can't come to an agreement. This was our hardest day, I would say, on our project. And by day, I mean 2 months. It took us 2 months to get through the COVID risk analysis before we moved ourselves forward. We had to move that up to the senior management team to make that decision, move us forward. Ultimately, we got there. We put a number associated with it that everyone was comfortable with, and we moved forward. We managed that risk. And that's really what you're doing on any project, right? Is managing the risks that come your way. I believe on any other contract model, we would have paused. We wouldn't have moved forward. The number that was being presented was too high to be put into our risk, and no one would have moved forward. But with the shared risk, that knowing that we're going to pay the contractor their costs, we're going to pay the designers their costs the whole time, there's a safety there. They know regardless of what happens, your costs will be paid. So there's that benefit. And then when we put the risk into the contract itself, there's incentive to actually do better. Can we improve? Defense being an essential service or operation to our country, we were able to continue work on the project. A lot of things in Canada stopped, right? COVID hit, everyone goes home, but defense operations are critical, and we had to move forward. So what did we do? We actually put up a tent so that we could be outside, flaps up, put our TV there so that we weren't touching boards anymore. We adapted, and we did it within the project budget. We didn't change order in this tent or change order in the TV and the digital stuff. We decided as a team that we could do it. And this was one of our solutions to do it. So here's some of the real good stuff here that most of us really focus on as owners anyway: quality, schedule, and cost. So from a schedule perspective, here's all our milestones that we put down. Each of these milestones represented a profit payment. Daniel had mentioned that earlier, right? That each milestone as you go, you're paying. You pay them as they meet them. And we all have to agree to those milestones. Things are looking pretty good. We hit our validation report. Remember, we all agreed at validation, this is the schedule we're going to do, and here's the budget we're going to do it at. Early works, we move our way through. We do see some issues with structural steel. While we were critical, the steel plant in Quebec, where we got our steel, was not critical. They shut down, and we had to make adjustments. That adjustment would typically mean lots of extra money for an owner. This has not worked. It is not my contractor's fault. How am I going to pay for this delay, or likely pay for this delay? Or how am I going to defend myself? Because we typically get into conflicts. In this scenario, we adjusted. We decided we could move forward with pouring our slab, wait for the steel plant to open up and bring us the steel that we needed to move forward. And so we flipped some of the work, which was the combined idea of the IPD team. So what you see here is we started to lose time, and then we started to gain time. And these two, 11 and 12, huge numbers here. We improved our schedule by 5 months on that large yellow building I showed earlier in the presentation. 5 months ahead of schedule. We had some benefits from actual COVID and being open, because many of our trades associated with the job were closed elsewhere, and we could bring more people on. But one of the real reasons we did it, we adjusted our schedule working with the users. We had those 2 buildings that we renovated, and the users told us that they were going on a training exercise and that those buildings would be emptied for 4 months, which gave us an opportunity to jump into those buildings well before we thought we were going to. So we adjusted our schedule that was planned to start in sequence, essentially. We were going to complete the new build and then do the renovations. All of a sudden, we started doing these in parallel, and we started to see these huge savings. So 5 months from our new build, and then ultimately 11 months on our renovation projects. And then you can see we actually finished at that 11-month mark ahead of schedule. These are just warranty items, typical warranty, nothing special here in IPD. You're getting the 1-year warranty or whatever you agree to in your contract. So, we talked about getting projects delivered early. We really produced an early project here. And you got to celebrate those successes. So this wasn't just we finished on time or we finished ahead of schedule and we celebrated. This was a celebration we had when we topped off the structural steel. We had some issues getting that steel, but when we finished it, in Canada, there's a celebration where you put a tree on top, like a Christmas tree, on top of your steel, and you have a party, or at least the structural steel guys do. And they invited us along this time. And you'll see here, we've got the actual users. They're bringing their light armor vehicles in here for us. Every laborer on the project signed this white beam, and it ended up getting installed at the other end here as a reminder of the efforts of the actual workforce that put this building up. And the celebration, bring that team together, team first. And here we have the commanding officer and the sergeant major of the Royal Canadian Dragoons who signed that's the column for the entryway of the building. So we would do this every 4-6 months to ensure that we made sure that team health is high and that everyone was feeling valued in the work that they did. So costing. I talked about wanting consistency and understanding how the project was going to spend money. Our executives want to know that they're going to spend that money that came in the annual budget. We saw an incredible amount of consistency through each of our estimating phases in this project. So the gray line is the base target cost, which is that high level, like the highest number that this project will come in at. Top cost. Final target cost, the FTC, is after the design phase. The design phase, we found efficiencies. We're looking to improve the project, maintaining the same requirements, maintaining the same quality required, but finding efficiencies in how we can do it and reducing the risks along the way. consistent. Like, look at the variation, very close. And then the estimated final cost. So that is what we're estimating throughout construction, and this is adjusting. Every month we're seeing this number flow. We essentially stayed perfectly on the base target cost on, I guess, January 2022. That's when we essentially handed over those renovated buildings 11 months ahead of schedule. And those 11 months proved to be savings of about $4.6 million. This is unheard of for us to get money back. And frankly, our contracts don't allow us to get money back. This is the only contract mechanism. When you come in under budget, we see the value in it. In a typical contract mechanism, the contractor is going to get that money, or the designers are going to get that money in a design build. Here, we, because we're taking on a little more risk and working with that team, get to see the actual incentive that we're providing to these contractors to do it faster and do it better. So, summary. Now, I talked about think slow, act fast. That's really that first time. Spend the time up front so that you can get to that fast acting move. You see it, there's more coordination, less change orders. Focusing on the health of the team ensures people feel that they're appreciated on the contract and that you want them to be a part of it. We want to do better. Doesn't mean there isn't conflicts. There needs to be conflicts. That's how we do things better, right? You come up with an idea, someone challenges you, you find the best solution. Engaging our project stakeholders. Really, I'm talking about the users here. We're getting users to tell us what they need. We've written a document that says, here are my requirements, but what does that really mean to the soldier on the ground or the cook in the kitchen? Getting that information from them helps us with the design. Another piece of this project stakeholder engagement is having your design team connected. When there is a request for information, an RFI, not sure what it is in France, but typically we get lots of requests for informations in those design bid builds. In this project, we actually didn't have any RFIs. We had our weekly meetings. We talked about the issues that the laborers on site were having, and our engineers and architects were there to break out, have a session, and fix the problem there. And we documented that through site instructions. So our typical process of RFI from a trade, we send that over to our designer. They come back with a response. Hopefully the trade understands it and it makes sense, and then they implement it. In the IPD world, the question is asked in the big room with all the players needed to do it, and then the solution is created that day or the next day or as quickly as possible, because everyone's incentivized to get that solution made as quickly as possible. I think that sums up the fourth point there, fast decision making, quite well. And then the more adaptable to change, greater flexibility. If there is an issue with something, because we're sharing risk, actually a reasonable example, we had some architectural concrete in this building. We removed the formworks on the concrete, and it really didn't look like what you would call architectural concrete. In a basic contract, you may go tear it out, do it all again. But did that add value to our users? No. It was the architect who wanted it to be pretty. We were quite happy with a solution of we'll parge over, it'll make it smooth, it'll function exactly how it needed to. That sort of decision and greater flexibility that we can do, that we can compromise, and so can the contractor in certain things, right? That's how the give and take. You've got to live in the gray part of it a bit. We have a budget, we need to hit the requirements. The architectural concrete was truly not a requirement for us. So with that, any questions?